Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So I think we'll start with Mangalacharan and then we'll go on to the text. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshatarine. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. I think we have to start from the 9th verse of 8th chapter. Is that true?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So I'm experiencing a bit of voice strain. So can somebody chant the verse and do the translation as well as read purports? We'll first chant the verse and read the translation, and then when I tell you, then you can read the purport. Nobody?
I can try, Mataji. I can.
Please do.
Kavim Puranam Anushashitaram Aniyam Sam Anushmaredyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat.
Good. Go ahead.
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature.
Thank you. So, if you remember, when we did a breakup on this chapter, 9 to 13 are verses related to Yoga Mishra Bhakti. That means a devotee who's practicing bhakti, but his desire is for, say, mystic powers, and his desire probably is to, get liberation. So, seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death. So, such a devotee is called Yoga Mishra Bhakta. This is not pure devotional service. This is some contamination of yoga. So 9 to 13, Krishna talks about those devotees who are not practicing pure devotional service, and how do they meditate on Krishna, and how can they get at the end of their life, how can they actually meditate on Krishna to remember Krishna at the end of their life. So in this verse, he's talking about 10 ways to remember. 10 ways to remember Krishna. So these 10 ways are that who knows everything, second, who's the oldest, third, who's the controller, fourth, he's the smallest, smaller than the smallest, fifth, he's the maintainer of everything, sixth, who's beyond all material conception, seven, who's inconceivable, eight, who's always a person, nine, he's luminous like the sun, and 10, he's transcendental beyond this material nature. So 10 ways to meditate on Krishna. So in the purport, Prabhupada in the first few lines gives the essence of this verse. When we read such a verse, what is really the essence? Why should one meditate on Krishna like that? So if you can read the purport, the highlighted portion. Go ahead.
The process of thinking of the Supreme is mentioned in this verse. The foremost point is that he is not impersonal or void. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. The process of thinking of Krishna, however, is very easy and is factually stated herein. First of all, the Lord is Purusha, a person. We think of the person Ram and the person Krishna. And whether one thinks of Ram or of Krishna, what he is like is described in this verse of Bhagavad Gita.
So basically, Prabhupada is saying that when Krishna is talking about these 10 ways to meditate on him, he's making it clear that he's a person. He's not impersonal, or he's not void. So we have to always remember that he is a person, he's not impersonal. So of this is the essence of this verse, that when we meditate on Krishna, always think of him as a person. And then at the end he says the word achintya, because achintya is that he's beyond material conception. He's inconceivable is very significant. In the whole purport, Prabhupada explains the different words, that how is the smaller of the smallest. So I'm not going to go much in detail. It's very, very straightforward. The word achintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. God's energy is beyond our conception, beyond our thinking jurisdiction, and is therefore called inconceivable, achintya. Who can argue this point? He pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. We cannot comprehend even this material world, which is insignificant compared to the spiritual world. So how can we comprehend what is beyond? Achintya means that which is beyond this material world, that which our argument, logic, and philosophical speculation cannot touch. That which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons, avoiding useless argument and speculation, should accept what is stated in scriptures like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the principles they set down. So he said, if we think that, oh, I know what to do and I can understand who Krishna is, it's not possible. So we should just accept what has been given in our scriptures, because he's achintya, he's beyond our comprehension. Okay? So before we go to the 10th verse, how many people did the assignment I gave in the last class? Please raise your hands. Okay? Good. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see you all. All right, wonderful. Vaibhavi, what's going on?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Please accept
Mataji,
mine.
Mataji, I'm coming back from hospital. My mother was not well. So I'll be turning my camera in 10 minutes. Please
No
allow me.
problem. Did you do the
Thank you.
assignment?
Yes, Mataji, I did.
Okay, wonderful.
So I'll read that in 10 minutes. Please allow me
Okay,
that.
no
Yeah.
problem.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, Tanvi, what's the scene? You are on mute. Can't hear you. You can't unmute yourself? I'm sending you a link. Just click on that. No? Okay. So, Pandit Gadadhar Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance.
please accept mine.
Yes, Mataji, I have gone through the series of factors to understand what exactly happened with Bharat Maharaj and why he fell down.
Okay.
So shall I tell the first reason, Mataji?
Yeah, give me one reason.
Okay, so the first reason is that he's all alone and there is no devotee association with him who can help him out to let him know that what mistake he's committing.
Okay,
So
so
his
that
lack of devotee association.
no association of devotees, so nobody to really tell you when you make a
Yes.
mistake. Good. Okay. Daya?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, the first one is that attachment. He left everything not to attach with family member, but coming to a forest, his attachment was misdirected.
Okay, good. Thank you. Shubham Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandana Pranam.
Damnatna.
Mataji, over compassion is one of the reason.
Misguided compassion.
Misguided compassion, we can say, by which Bharat Maharaj fall down.
Yeah. So actually what you are saying and what Daya has said are kind of related points, because misguided compassion means that it was not wrong to save that deer. There was nothing wrong in that. What was wrong was actually making that deer the the point of your attention and absorption. So it's that's what is attachment, that excessive attachment to the deer is the problem. So yeah, thank you. Vaibhavi, oh, you're here sooner than we expected you. Okay.
Yeah, even I didn't know that I was coming too fast. So, Mataji, I noted down 3 points. One, Prabhuji
Only
has
one,
already
only
said that he
one.
was
Only one that has not been
only one,
spoken yet.
that he forgot his duties towards Lordship, and he was too attached to that deer, and he was hankering after the death of that deer.
So he forgot his duty. So it is mentioned in Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that he became negligent towards his devotional practices. He became so absorbed in that deer that he became negligent. Okay, so one point is lack of association. Second point is excessive attachment. And third is that he became negligent towards his devotional. Okay. Karunamai Mataji. Please accept mine. Yeah.
Last there is one more reason that it was Krishna's will also. He wants to teach us through the example of his devotee.
Yes, it is a Leela. Yes.
Yes, because on a level of love, it is very difficult for somebody for anyone to commit offenses.
It's not an offense, it's negligence. It's not an offense. He did not commit an offense. It's negligence. And related to this, what you're saying is true. It's a Leela. But at the same time, it is also a warning that one can fall from any level, even from bhav, one can fall down. So if you're negligent, so one should be very careful. That at every stage of your bhakti, one should be very careful. One can fall down even from a very high stage. So that is also there. Okay, so now if your hand is still up, I'm assuming you have a different point. Tulsi?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The reason I have found is that he was mentally absorption in the deer. Because of that, at the time of that, he think of that deer.
That is attachment. Yeah, that is attachment. Right. Thank you. Nishtha?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, it can be the uncontrollable desire. If we collect all together all the points that have been stated,
Okay, explain that.
As an uncontrollable desire in terms of having that attachment, because that attachment comes up with the desire itself to
So
serve the
it
point.
boils down to attachment. It's the same point, right? Yeah, that
Somewhat, yes. It
uncontrolled
can be.
mind, because actually we can't really call it uncontrolled mind. It is just that he thought it was more like misplaced compassion. He thought it was his duty to take care of deer. Like, oh, Krishna has sent this deer to me, so that means Krishna wants me to take care of this deer. So
The
he
point
took
of
it like
focus
that, and
shifted.
became attached. Thank you. Jyoti?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble
Please
obeisances.
accept mine.
One more point which I felt was sense of ownership. Like he felt like if he will not take care of the deer, so what will happen to him? So
Yeah.
he started feeling that sense of ownership for the deer.
Good point. Very good point. It may have more than sense of ownership, to forget who's actually the maintainer. Forgetting who's actually the maintainer. He's thinking of himself as the maintainer, whereas it's Krishna who's our actual maintainer. Good point. Thank you. Bhavika?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
As
Krishna.
per my understanding, I feel that Krishna, the Lord, wanted him to be more progressive in bhakti. So, to attain, because the devotional service was lost and the results were not surrendered onto Krishna. So, again, to bring him onto the path.
Can you please explain? I didn't quite get your point.
I mean, like when God wants her to be more aggressive towards moving towards the path, then
He's
also.
already doing that. No, he left everything just to pursue his devotional service.
But like once like he was doing it progressively, and then there was a lapse. There was a in between somewhere the sense of ownership and the devotional service is lost, and then like he's not completely surrendered.
Okay.
So to bring him onto the path back, and to be like Krishna
So
wants
basically, it's what you're saying is it's Krishna's way of arranging this.
yes. So
Yeah.
that once we leave our path and we are not on the right path, or maybe we are misled in between. So it is another way that we are pulled back and then we move again to the same path. It's a learning for us.
It's a learn. Yeah. So we have discussed this point before. I think it was Karuna Mai who mentioned this point, that I don't remember who really pointed this, that it is Krishna's plan, it's a Leela, to teach us how we need to be very careful with our devotional service. Thank you. Krishna Priya Mataji.
Dharannath Pranam Mataji, Hare
Dhanvat
Krishna.
Naam. Hare Krishna.
Actually, one of the points is also he forgot his Atma Swarup.
He forgot his
Atma Swarup.
Atma Swarup. Okay.
Yeah, and that led to the fallen his duties.
Explain what do you mean by he forgot his
That
Atma Swarup?
he has left all his kingdom and everything for renunciation. But when he got in contact with this deer, and suddenly the affinity towards deer increased, and he was more involved in taking care of him. So he forgot his Atma Swarup, because it was Atma Swarup, the realization of Atma Swarup, which led him to renounce this world.
So you are basically saying that he got sidetracked by the deer.
Yes, and that led to then distraction from his swadharma, giving all these yagyas, and he forgot all those things, these daily rituals. And then and at the last, one thing is there, at the time of death, he also he was remembering this day.
Thank you. Vaibhavi, you want to add?
Yes, Madhu. There's one more point that Krishna wanted us to learn from this, that it is not necessary if you leave your house and go into the jungle, or you stay at your place, you can fall down at any place if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Towards the devotional
And
activity.
Prabhupada, during Prabhupada's time, there was a devotee from Kenya who was Prabhupada's disciple. And he went to Mayapur to visit, came back and told Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, I want to go and chant in Mayapur. So Prabhupada told him, no, you stay in the association of devotees. He said, no, 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 I want to actually go and do ekantik bhajan. I want to do, bhajan on my own. I want to like chant 3 lakh names every day, and I want to be in Mayapur. So Prabhupada tried to stop him many times, but he was very determined. He left, and he like made a hut for himself, and then he started staying in that and started chanting 3 lakh names, which is 192 rounds a day. So it went on, and after that, after some time, Prabhupada inquired about him that how is it going? Is he still there? What is he doing? So they said he did that for 3 months, and after that he just disappeared. Nobody really knows where he went. So that's how dangerous it is, So there is this book by His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The name is Vaishnav K. In that he mentions that what kind of Vaishnav you are, sometimes we may also get an idea, let's just go to a place where I can do my bhajan properly. So he says that a lot of times such desires are due to our false ego, where we want to think of ourselves as a advanced devotee. So sometimes it may be by the blessings of Guru and Gauranga, then it's okay. But if it's not because of their blessings and it's just our mental concoction, it is a very dangerous path. It's very, very dangerous. So thank you very much for sharing the lessons. So very important to remember, because when we remember such pastimes from the Shastras, it kind of makes us aware that how careful we should be while discharging devotional service. We should be so careful. Thank you. So we'll move on to the 10th text. Yeah, somebody can read it, and please read the translation, and then we will talk. Yeah.
May I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
प्रयाण काले मनसा चलेना भक्त्या युक्तो योग बलेन चैव भूर्भुर्मध्ये प्रणामावेश्य सम्यक् तं परम पुरुषम उपते दिव्यम. One who at the time of death fixes his ear between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engaging himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So we read similar stuff in 6th chapter, right? How does a yogi practice that? He fixes life hair between the eyebrows. So we read some of this. So this is what again now Krishna is talking about, how the practice of Sat Chakra Yoga. And he, in the next couple of verses, he's going to talk about their practice. So read this highlighted portion from the purport.
A pure devotee does not practice such yoga, but because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, at the time of death, he can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his grace. The particular use of the word Yog Balena is very significant in this verse, because without practice of yoga, whether Sat Chakra Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life.
So yeah, Prabhupada is saying that all these processes that Krishna is talking about is not really applicable in the life of a bhakti yogi. We don't have to do all these things that fixing the life hair between the eyebrows. We don't have to do all that, because our devotee is always engaged in serving. He's always engaged in serving Krishna through his body, mind, and words. Through his body, mind, and words, and therefore Krishna takes care of him. He doesn't have to depend on his own practice or his own faculties, because if he's actually serving Krishna throughout his life. So now at the end of his life, Krishna takes charge of him. He doesn't have to worry about what's going to happen to me. And Krishna will say that towards the end of this chapter. And Prabhupada is saying that one has to practice some kind of yoga throughout one's life to be able to achieve success at the time of death. A lot of times, when we preach, people say, oh, I don't have to practice now. When I'm old, I will do it. Or if you tell them that the goal of human life is to remember Krishna at the time of death, Ante Narayana Smriti. You tell them that, they say, oh, somehow we will remember, don't worry. So Prabhupada is making it very clear that it's not possible. You can't suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death if you've not practiced it throughout your life. That is why it is so important to practice. Practice. Abhyasa yogena. 11th.
Yeah,
Mataji, can I?
Yeah. Don't ask me, just start. Whoever wants to.
Yat aksharam vedo vidanti vishanti yata yao vitara ragaha yat icchanto brahmacharam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshakshe. Person who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar and who are great sage in the renounced order, enter into Brahma. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain you this process by which one may attain salvation.
So he's now talking about Yog Mishra Bhaktas. So what is their destination? Is Brahma Jyoti. That's their destination. And they do all this practice to reach Brahma Jyoti. Because you cannot reach the spiritual planets till the time you actually serve Krishna in his personal feature. If you don't do it, you don't reach beyond Brahma Jyoti. So their destination is Brahma Jyoti. What do? They are learned in Vedas. They study Vedas. They utter Omkara, which is the impersonal form of Krishna, sound vibration of Krishna. Hare Krishna is personal sound vibration and Omkara is impersonal, and who are great sages in the renounced order and who practice celibacy. So Prabhupada in his purport says that Lord Shri Krishna has recommended to Arjun the practice of Shat Chakra Yoga, in which one places the air of life between the eyebrows. Taking it for granted that Arjun might not know how to practice Shat Chakra Yoga, the Lord explains the process in the following verses. So we have done something like this even in the 6th chapter during the Ashtanga Yoga, the different practices. So I'm not going to go much in detail. So Prabhupada basically explains that for Ashtanga Yoga and Gyan Yoga, you cannot practice if you are not celibate. You have to be a brahmachari to practice Gyan Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So most of people in Kali Yuga are anyway not eligible because you have to practice celibacy. So he's saying, but in Bhakti Yoga, there is no such, there's no such requirement of pre-qualification. Wherever you are, whatever you are, however you are, you can practice Bhakti Yoga. So he says that therefore Lord Chaitanya has given us a very easy process, Sankirtan Yagya, just chanting the holy name of the Lord to achieve perfection in this age. Text 12.
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरतो च मूर्ध्नि आधायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणम्. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life where at the top of the head one establishes himself in yoga.
So Krishna is now explaining that what is the process for these Yoga Mishra Bhakta. What is the yogic process? So he's talking about pratyahar. Pratyahar means to withdraw all the senses from their sense objects. So we read that there are 8 steps in Ashtanga Yoga, right? So what are those 8 steps? Anybody remembers? Yes, Prabhu.
Yam.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yam Niyam Asan Pranayam Dhyan
Pratyahara.
Pratyahar Dharan Dhyan and Samadhi.
Dhyan Samadhi.
Yes. So this is Pratyahar. So Prabhupada in the purport says To practice yoga as suggested here, one first has to close the doors of all sense enjoyment. This practice is called pratyahar, or withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. The sense organs for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, touch, and tongue, should be fully controlled and should not be allowed to engage in sense gratification, self-gratification. Then he says, but Lord Chaitanya is saying that this is not practical in this age. Even Arjun says that I can't do it. It's not practical. So the best process is Krishna consciousness. If one is always able to fix his mind on Krishna in devotional service, it is very easy for him to remain in an undisturbed transcendental trance or in samadhi. So what is our process? Our process is to fix our minds on Krishna in devotional service. What does it mean? It means to fix our mind on Krishna in a favorable way, in a mood to serve him, as an offering to him. Whatever we do, as an offering to him. That Krishna, I'm doing this for your pleasure. I'm studying for your pleasure. How? How can studies be for Krishna's pleasure?
So if we study well enough, we'll be able to preach more effectively, and people will obviously try to hear from those have some designations attached to them.
Yes,
Material
if you want to preach to educated class, and if you yourself are educated, it's easier to preach to that class because they can identify, they can connect with you. So that way, when we study also, we can do that as an offering to Krishna. Yeah, Vaibhavi?
Maharaj, we can recite the shlokas of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and the books of Prabhupada and follow the instructions of Acharyas in the form of books. That's how we can please Krishna.
Yeah. When we study, if we are studying Shastra, then we can always do it as an offering that Krishna, I'm reading these Shastras because I have forgotten my relationship with you, which is eternal. And through these Shastras, I want to reestablish my eternal relationship with you. I want to remind myself what is my connection with you, and I want to serve you. And I want to read all these shlokas for your glorification. Or I want to read all this because your pure devotee has put in so much effort to give us these books. I want to do this offering for his pleasure, so that he would be pleased if I read these books. So, it has to be done as an offering. That is how it becomes in devotional service. Otherwise, if we just, even if when we come to the class, when we are doing Mangalacharan, we should fix our intent. It's very important. We fix our intent that I'm sitting in this class because for the next 2 hours, Krishna, I want to hear about you. I want to meditate on your words. I want to contemplate on the words of your pure devotee. And I want to get closer to you. I want to establish a heart connection with you. So this is how we fix our intent before we do any activity. Whether we are studying, we are teaching, whatever we are doing. Very important to first fix an intent and do it as an offering. Okay? Text 13.
Can I, Mataji?
Yeah, go ahead.
Om Ityaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran Yaha Priyati Tyajandeham Sayati Paramam Gatim. Translation: After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, this supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the planets. Purport: It is
So you
clearly
see,
stated.
hold on. So you see here the word that he is using, Mam Anusmaran. Here, he's using the words Mam Anusmaran. Where did we read this in this chapter? Which verse was it? It was the seventh verse. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyascha. So he's answering that how to remember me. How can you remember me? So he's saying that when if you are doing all this yoga practice and then you think, and if you think of me, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. And when he says spiritual planets, he's actually meaning Brahmajyoti. because that's where a Yoga Mishra Bhakta goes. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that it is clearly stated here that Om, Brahman, and Lord Krishna are not different. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. The chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is clearly recommended for this age. So if one quits his body at the end of life chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he certainly reaches one of the spiritual planets according to the mode of his practice. What does Prabhupada mean by according to the mode of his practice?
Mataji, the bhav.
Bhav, Daya?
The yoga he is following, like Bhakti Yoga or Gyan Yoga.
No, he's talking about a bhakta who's ending his life chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he will certainly reach one of the spiritual planets according to the mode of his practice.
Hare Krishna Mataji,
So whether
it
it
could
be
be
the
Hold
Sakya
on,
Bhav.
don't. Hold on. Daya? Nothing? Okay. Now say, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It could be Sakya Bhav, or it could be any of the five or four bhavas in Shringaras or Sakyaras, Dasaras. So whatever mode of practice
It is actually here when he talks about mode of his practice, he's not really referring to those rasas. He's referring to whether the practice involves awe and reverence, or is it, if it is awe and reverence, one would end up in Vaikuntha planets. But if it is, love without awe and reverence, then one would end up in Goloka. So that's what he's talking about. He'll reach one of the spiritual planets according to the mode of his practice, because all the rasas are there in spiritual planets. Vaikuntha also has most of the rasas. So the distinguishing factor is not rasa. It is whether one is practicing in awe and reverence, or one is practicing in, more like informal relationship. Okay? Is that okay? 14.
अनन्यचेता सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः. Translation: For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Parth, because of his constant engagement in devotional service.
Thank you. So 14 to 16 is a pure devotee. How does a pure devotee remember him at the time of death? So here he's talking about Ananya Bhakta. He's saying what? Ananya Chetaha Satatam. One who, without an undeviated mind, always remembers me. So now he's talking about a pure devotee. So let's read the purport.
This verse specially describes the final destination attained by the unalloyed devotees who serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhakti Yoga. Previous verses have mentioned four different kinds of devotees: the distressed, the inquisitors, those who seek material gain, and the speculative philosophers. Different processes of liberation have also been described: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. The principles of these yoga systems have some bhakti added. But this verse particularly mentions pure bhakti yoga without any mixture of jnana, karma, or hat. As indicated by the word ananya cheta, in pure bhakti yoga, the devotee desires nothing but Krishna. A pure devotee does not desire promotion to heavenly planets, nor does he seek oneness with the Brahma Jyoti or salvation or liberation from material entanglement. A pure devotee does not desire anything.
Yeah, so Prabhupada is mentioning that, earlier we read about Sakam devotees who approach Krishna with some motivation, but here Krishna is talking about those who are Ananya Bhaktas, unalloyed devotees, unalloyed pure devotees. And then he's quoting this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataiva Shant, and then it says, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakala Shant, that when one has desire of bhukti, that is enjoyment, mukti, liberation, and Siddhi means mystic perfection. All those people are not peaceful. But because a pure devotee is Nishkam, he has no other desire. He has no self interest. All he wants to do is serve Krishna. He doesn't care that if Krishna is going to take him to the spiritual world or not. His only desire is that Krishna, wherever I am, I just want to serve you. So there's no tension, no stress. Wherever he is, he's going to do the same thing. There is no aspiration that I want to reach here, I want to do this, I want to do that. So then Prabhupada says that a Gyan yogi, Karma yogi or Hatha yogi has his own selfish interest. What is the Gyan yogi's interest? Brahma Jyoti. Karma yogi's interest is what? Heavenly planets. Hatha yogi's interest is what? To get mystic siddhis. Our perfect devotee has no desire other than to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord says that for anyone who's unflinchingly devoted to Him, He is easy to attain. So Krishna says, what Sulabha in this text we see, Tasyaham Sulabha Partha, that for such a person I'm very easy to attain. Other people have to really endeavor, other people really have to work very hard. But a devotee, simply because he has surrendered to me and I am his only goal, he attains me very easily. Why will we read the green section in this purport?
Yes, Mataji. A pure devotee always engages in devotional service to Krishna in one of his various personal features. Bhakti yoga is very simple and pure and easy to perform. One can begin simply by chanting Hare Krishna. The Lord is merciful to all, but as we have already explained, He is especially inclined towards those who always serve him without deviation. The Lord helps such devotees in various ways. And as stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.10, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, the Lord gives such a devotee sufficient intelligence so that ultimately the devotee can attain him in his spiritual kingdom.
Yeah.
Uh, the special qualification
No,
of the
no,
pure.
wait. So Prabhupada is making it very clear that it is very simple and pure. It's very simple. What do you have to do? He's saying you just start chanting Hare Krishna. What else? Stay in the association of devotees, honor prasadam, sing, dance, read. It's not a complicated process. When we read about Ashtanga Yoga, that you have to practice celibacy, you have to, place the air in all the air between the eyebrows. The eyes should be half closed, half open, staring at the tip of nose. It's so difficult. It's not practical. But Bhakti Yoga is so easy. And then he says, when such a devotee, when he's practicing without any deviation, without any motivation, ahai tuki apratihata, when he's doing that, then what happens? The Lord gives him the intelligence, Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam. He gives him intelligence that how you can come back to me, how you can reach me, right? So then Prabhupada says the special qualification of the pure devotee is that he's always thinking of Krishna without deviation or without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. In Bhakti Yoga, there's no impediment. Wherever you are, you can think of Krishna. Who can stop you and dictate what you think about? Can anybody dictate your thinking? No. Wherever you are, you can think of Krishna. Is there any impediment? In your mind, you can chant Hare Krishna. Is there any impediment? No. In Bhakti Yoga, there's no impediment. So Prabhupada is saying he should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Why don't we read this last one?
Bhakti Yoga is a system that Gita recommends above all others. Generally, the Bhakti yogis are engaged in 5 different ways. Shanta Bhakta, engaged in devotional service in neutrality. Second is Dasya Bhakta, engaged in devotional service as servant. Third, Sakhya Bhakta, engaged as friend. Fourth, Vatsalya Bhakta, engaged as parent. And fifth is Madhurya Bhakta, engaged as conjugal lover of the Supreme Lord. In any of these ways, the pure devotee is always constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord and cannot forget the Supreme Lord. And so, for him, the Lord is easily attained. A pure devotee cannot forget the Lord, the Supreme Lord, for a moment. And similarly, the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. This is the great blessing of the Krishna conscious process of chanting the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
So here Prabhupada is telling us about the 5 rasas, right? That Bhakti Yogi is, he practices in one of the 5 rasas. And it's very easy for such a person because he does not forget Krishna even for a moment. And we read earlier that the verse that Prabhupada quoted from the 9th canto of Bhagavatam, the Sadhavo Hridayam Mayam. Yeah, that I'm in the heart of my devotees and my devotees are in my heart because I'm always thinking of them, they are always thinking of me. So that way it's the greatest blessing. We don't really have to do anything else. We don't have to like get into a very difficult practice of any other yoga. We don't even have to like try and study Vedas and get into mental speculation. All we have to do is what? Just chant nicely and remember Krishna. Okay, 15.
मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्मं दुःखालयम् अशाश्वतं नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गतः. Translation: After attaining me, the great souls, who are yogis in devotion, never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection.
Thank you. So here, normally we hear a lot of times that Krishna says this material world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. This is the verse where he uses this. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. That is, that this place is actually home to all kind of miseries and it is also temporary. So, and see, he's such a wonderful preacher, Krishna, no? He says that. He says this world is like this, but if you come to my abode, then there is no such misery. There is no such misery, and you don't have to come back to this temporary world. So, what all Krishna has to do to allure us? He doesn't have to. Does he have to allure us? No. Why does he do that?
Because he is extremely merciful towards us.
Yeah, he's extremely merciful towards us. What else?
And because we know that we tend to, because this is not our first birth and we took birth multiple times and we are attached to this material world, so that's why he is stating that this is a place full of miseries and we need to return back to Godhead.
Okay, good. Shubham Prabhu?
Mataji, because he loves us, he sees us, he sees that the souls are suffering in this world and they should come back to me where there is no sufferings.
Yeah, because he knows that you fool, you wanted to enjoy independently of me, so I gave you an option. But this is now not how you can be happy. This is not the way to experience bliss. You can only experience bliss when you are with me in my spiritual abode. So Prabhupada says in many places that Krishna wants us to come back to him more than we want to go there. Why? Because as a father, he's more concerned about us, than we are concerned about him. So, typically that happens even in the mundane world, right? So we see that. So that's why he says that. Okay, somebody read this purport.
Since this temporary world is full of miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, naturally, he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, Golok Vrindavan, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in Vedic literature as Avyakta and Akshara and Paramagati. In other words, that planet is beyond our material vision and it is inexplicable, but it is the highest goal, the destination for the Mahatmas, the great souls. The Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in the transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna and Krishna's association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection of life. This verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna. These devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are the supreme souls.
Yeah. So here he's saying, Prabhupada is explaining that a devotee does not even want to go to heavenly planets. He does not even want liberation. He does not want to go to Brahma Jyoti. So much so that he does not want any spiritual planet. What does he want? He says, I just want to serve you, my Lord. Wherever you want me to be, I'll serve you there. I'm happy serving you wherever you want me to be. So there is this verse in the 6th canto. I am forgetting that verse, but I can paraphrase the translation. It says that a devotee does not accept any of the 5 kind of muktis if it does not involve service to Krishna. So if you tell a devotee that takes Alokya Mukti, go to the same planet as, Krishna, Sarupya Mukti, Shashti, same opulence, and or Sayujya Mukti, a devotee is not interested. He says, what will I do if there's no service? Even if I go to the same planet, or even if I get the same opulence, even if I get the same, Samipya, even if I'm close to the Lord. But if there's no service, then what will I do? I have nothing to do. So a devotee does not accept even any kind of the 5 muktis if it does not involve service to Krishna. So Prabhupada is saying that a devotee has no such interest. He's just wanting to go to do service to Krishna wherever he may be. Okay? So now 16. Now Krishna has told about his abode. Now he's going to talk about something very interesting. Yes, Prabhu.
Mataji, I have a question. Mataji, this is in regards to the previous verse wherein it's been mentioned that the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. So when we talk about Bharat Maharaj, we see that he took 3 births, right, to actually liberate from this material world and all. But when we see the case of Ajamil, so he was liberated within the same lifespan, though he has committed a number of sins. He was attached, he was involved in all the illicit activities. While we see the character of the Bharat Maharaj, he was just attached to the deer and he took 3 other births to liberate from that material body. So why such difference, Madhuri?
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So in the 6th canto, where the Ajamil Katha is there, the Acharyas comment that Ajamil's wife, that the prostitute, had actually served some very, very pure devotees. She had rendered very nice service to them. As a result, and she was pregnant at that time. So while leaving, they told her that when your child is born, please name him Narayan. Right? So which they followed. And then Ajamil became so attached to that child that Prabhupada also mentions that at every moment he was just calling, Narayan, do this, Narayan, come here, Narayan, do this, Narayan, sit here, Narayan, eat, like that. So the Acharya says that the holy name of the Lord, if uttered without knowledge or with knowledge, actually has the capacity to destroy sinful reactions from many lifetimes. And Ajamil was chanting the holy name every day, many, many times. So by that time, his death came, he was actually purified. And that's why Vishnu Dutas come. The Vishnu Dutas came because, he was purified. He was chanting Namabhas. He was not chanting Namaprat. He was chanting Namabhas. So that's why Vishnu Dutas came and they chased away all the Yamadutas. And then he was given an extension that now from Namabhas you go to pure Nam. You go to pure Nam and perfect your life. So at the end of the life, then a chariot came from the Vaikuntha Lokas to take him back. So this was the Jamil's Katha. In case of Bharat Maharaj, see, in Ajamil Katha, the basic lesson that was taught was how the power of the holy name, the potency of the holy name. In case of Bharat Maharaj, many lessons, like we discussed, were taught. That he, even after reaching such a stage, after renouncing a huge kingdom, after renouncing the whole family, after renouncing the opulence, what happens? You go and get attached to a deer. Okay, no problem, even if you're attached to a deer. But the attachment overpowers you to such an extent that you forget your devotional practice. Even while doing chanting or doing whatever he was doing or worshipping, he's remembering the deer. He's not remembering the Lord. He's remembering the deer. So that is why Krishna gave him that facility, that he was born as a deer. It's a pastime. It's something known as shiksha prad. It is supposed to teach us. And look at Krishna's mercy. Even as a deer, he remembered his past life. He remembered what had really happened, and he would go and he would be near a hermitage and hear katha, Krishna katha. He was not like an ordinary deer. He was hearing Krishna katha every day. So next life, he got an opportunity to be born as Jad Bharat and yet remember the past two lifetimes. So Krishna deals with different devotees differently to teach different lessons to us. And who else can he teach us lessons through except for his devotees? So they are. And in case of Ajamil, I mean, the whole idea of the potency of the holy name shines bright because Ajamil is such a character. He's done everything. But then the Acharya said, but he did not offend a devotee. He did not do any Vaishnava aparad. He may have done a lot of sinful things, but he did not offend a devotee. And before he got deviated, he was a very pure brahmachari. Not a brahmachari, a pure brahmana, because he was already married. He was a pure brahmana who was worshipping his Shaligram Shila very nicely. And why had he gone to the forest? To collect flowers for his Shaligram worship, not for sense enjoyment. So the another lesson that we read, we actually get to know from Ajamil's pastime is Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsam. That if you contemplate on something, if you see something, and you become attached to it, and then you start contemplating on it, what will happen? Lust. And then lust will ultimately take you down.
Anger. Yes.
And delusion and
yes, bewilderment of memory and then
memory of
yes,
bewilderment.
yeah.
And fall down. Right? So different stories, different lessons, different pastimes.
Oh, yes. Thank you much.
Somebody please read this 16th verse.
Mataji, I'm reading.
Yeah, go ahead.
Abhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again.
Thank you. So almost like the 15th verse. It is almost like the 15th verse that this place in the material world, whether you go to the highest planet or you go to the lowest planet, there's only misery, there's birth and death. But if you come to my abode, then you don't have to come back. So it's like a repetition from Krishna. So Prabhupada says many times that repetition is necessary to drive a point home. So sometimes if we miss a point, we did not really get it. So Krishna says it again. Now, okay, no problem if you missed it the first time. I'm repeating it so that you get it this time. So please read the highlighted portion, the green one from this purport.
All kinds of yogis, karma, gyan, hatha, etc., eventually have to attain devotional perfection in bhakti yoga or Krishna consciousness before they can go to Krishna's transcendental abode and never return. Those who attain the highest material planets, the planets of the demigods, are again subjected to repeated birth and death. As persons on earth are elevated to higher planets, people on higher planets such as Brahma Loka, Chandra Loka, and Indra Loka fall down to earth.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is making it very clear that if somebody wants to go to Krishna's transcendental abode, they have to practice bhakti yoga. You may be doing whatever kind of yoga you may be doing, whether it's karma, jnana, or hatha. But without practicing bhakti yoga, one cannot reach devotional perfection. One cannot reach Krishna's transcendental abode. So bhakti yoga is the key. So for all yogas to actually attain their perfection, there has to be bhakti. And then he's talking about that how whichever planet in to the lowest, one's life is not eternal. One will have to take birth again. And then he says those who progress in Krishna consciousness on the higher planets are gradually elevated to higher and higher planets, and at the time of universal devastation are transferred to the eternal abode, to the eternal spiritual kingdom. So what is he saying? That if say somebody goes to a higher planet, say moon planet, and if he's able to practice Krishna consciousness there and progress, then what will happen? He'll get elevated to a higher planet, then to another higher planet, then to another higher planet, and ultimately and he will reach Brahmaloka, which is the highest planet. And when the devastation takes place, he will go to the spiritual kingdom along with Lord Brahma. But the condition is that Lord Brahma has to be a devotee, pure devotee. If Lord Brahma is pure devotee, then that person everybody who's in Brahmaloka, they all go to the spiritual world at the time of his death, at the time of universal devastation. And then Prabhupada is saying, when there is devastation of this material universe, Brahma and his devotees who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness are all transferred to the spiritual universe and to specific spiritual planets according to their desires. If according to their desires or attraction towards a particular form of the Lord, they will get a particular planet. Daya?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, then Brahmaji, like he's topmost, on topmost. So whenever
Material world.
in the material world, whenever he dies, the next birth of Brahma is will be in eternal, like he will not take birth again.
Depending on whether he's a pure devotee or not. Some Brahma might not be a pure devotee, but our Brahma is a pure devotee. So if you make it to Brahmaloka at the end of his life, you are going back to the spiritual kingdom. But you don't have to go make it to Brahmaloka. You can straight away go back to spiritual kingdom by your practice, by the potency of this process.
But Mataji, how can a Brahma cannot be a pure devotee? Because he is busy in...
How does one become a Brahma? How does one get the position of Brahma? Who knows?
By doing good karmas.
100 lifetimes of practicing Varnashram Dharma perfectly. So it's not necessary that he's a pure devotee. Most of the times he is, but it's not always true. Okay? So Baladev Vidyabhushan, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, when he comments on this particular purport, he says that this is an explanation of interplanetary tourism. That how to go from one planet to another, to another, to another. If you want to visit different planets, what's the process? Go to say a moon planet or Swargaloka, then from there go to a higher planet, then to Janaloka, Taploka, Maharloka, and then to Brahmaloka, like that, by advancing in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, somebody read this.
सहस्रयुगपर्यन्तम् अहर्यद्धमनो विदु रात्रिं युगसहस्रान्तां ते अहोरात्रविदो जना. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night.
Yeah, so now Krishna is making it very clear that, see, Brahma's life may seem really long from a human point of view. And someone may think, oh, if I go to Brahmaloka, that's good enough, that's a long life. So he's saying that it seems long, but it is still not free from birth and death. And Prabhupada in his purport talks about the duration of different yugas, that how, according to human calculation, Satya Yuga has 17 lakhs 28,000 years. So he's talking about duration of different yugas. And then in the highlighted portion, he says, these 4 yugas rotating 1,000 times comprise one day of Brahma. 1,000 cycles of this 4 yugas is one day of Brahma. And the same number comprise one night. So 2,000 cycles of these 4 yugas is one day and one night of Brahma. Can you imagine? It's mind-boggling. And then Prabhupada says Brahma lives 100 such years and then dies. These 100 years by earthly calculations total to 311 trillion and 40 billion earth years. We may think, wow, that's so amazing, If I go to Brahma Loka, I'm set. This is good. So Prabhupada is then saying, by these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable. But from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. Remember, we discussed that how Mahavishnu breathes out, and all this material manifestation comes into being, and then he breathes in and everything is finished. So his breathing out and breathing in is how much? Lifetime of one Brahma. That is 311 trillion and 40 billion earth years is just one breath of Mahavishnu. That is one breath of Mahavishnu. So it seems as from his perspective, from the perspective of eternity, it is a lightning flash. What is it? Nothing. One breath. Do you even count one breath? No. What is it? So then Prabhupada is saying that in the causal ocean there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. You've seen bubbles in the ocean? They keep forming and they keep getting flat. If you see the bubbles, they rise and they become flat. They rise and become flat. So that is how Brahmas appear. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. And in the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, however, is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord in the management of this universe. Therefore, he at once attains liberation. So, if he's a pure devotee, he attains spiritual planets. He is not a pure devotee, he doesn't attains Brahma Jyoti. Okay? Elevated sannyasis are promoted to Brahma's particular planet, Brahmaloka, which is the highest planet in the material universe and which survives all heavenly planets in the upper strata of the planetary system. But in due course, Brahma and all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka are subject to death according to the law of material nature. Yeah, Vaibhavi.
Actually, as you told that Brahma ji falls down from his place, and
I didn't say that he falls down.
I mean he has a time limit.
Yeah,
Okay,
he has
then
a time limit.
some other Brahma will become after the creation.
His duration is also set. It's not that he is eternal.
Right. So, is it true that Shiva also falls down in this category? Because Shiva is also said to be a Janma. He
Yeah.
never dies. He never gets birth.
Shiva is a very Shiva Tattva is a very interesting thing. So Sadashiv, who is in the spiritual planets, he has his own loka in Vaikuntha. And that is known as Shiva Loka. And that Shiva is an expansion of Vishnu, direct expansion. He never dies. But then that Sadashiv expands as Shambhu and Shiva in material world. So when he expands in the material world, there is duration is limited, but not the original Shiva. He does not die.
So the 11 Rudras that he forms, they come under this category, but the Sadashiv doesn't.
Doesn't.
Thank you much.
18.
अव्यक्ताद्व्यक्तया सर्वा प्रभवन्त्यः रागमे रात्र्यागमे प्रलीयन्ते तत्रैवाव्यक्तसंज्ञके. Translation. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again.
Yeah. So all of you know this process, how dissolution takes place and what really happens, or you need further explanation? If you don't say anything, I'll move forward.
Need explanation.
Need explanation. Okay. That is the safest way to go, right? Just, okay. All right. So what happens during the day of Brahma, all the living entities are manifested. At the night time, when he goes to sleep, then up to Swarga Loka, all the lokas, they get filled with water. They get filled with water. And then what happens? All the jivas of those lokas, they get parked in the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And they wait for Brahma to wake up again and start creation the next day. So again, Brahma wakes up the next day and he starts creation for these lokas which were submerged underwater. Okay, so this is one dissolution. Then another dissolution is at the end of Brahma's life. When Brahma completes 100 years, then what happens? Everything, Brahmaloka till Brahmaloka, the whole material world is destroyed. There's dissolution of the entire material world. And all the jivas who have not gone back home to Godhead, who have not been, who are still in the material world, they get parked in the body of Mahavishnu. And they remain there for a long time till next creation starts again. So there are different kind of dissolutions. A third dissolution happens when at the end of each manvantar. So there is some disturbance caused and the water fills up. And it's a partial dissolution. And then the four kind of dissolution are mentioned by our acharyas. The fourth one is that every day we are experiencing some kind of devastation. We are actually getting devastated in the sense that we are actually reaching closer and closer to death. And the fifth kind is, which is liberation, that going back home, back to Godhead, that is the fifth kind of dissolution. After that, nothing happens. You don't come back. Shubham Prabhu.
Mataji, you mentioned Manvantar dissolution. So how do we calculate, like, what is that?
What is what?
Manvantar dissolution.
At the end of each Manu's reign, there is a partial dissolution because some disturbance gets caused, and this is what happened during Hiranyaksha when Chakshusha Manvantar, started. The earth fell into the Garbhodak ocean. Why? Because there was some disturbance. Some acharyas say because Hiranyaksha pushed the earth, and some say because of the disturbance caused by the dissolution. The earth fell.
Mataji, we also hear about the Matsya Avatar, and so when this Leela happened, like at that end of the Brahma's day, or like at the
Matsya
end of
Avatar was a
Manvantar?
special Leela arranged by the Lord for his devotees, Satyavrat, and I forgot the name of, what's his name? Markandeya Rishi. Satyavrat and Markandeya Rishi, because Satyavrat, was it Satyavrat? I'm now getting confused by the names. Because one of them wanted to see how Lord's Maya works. And then the second one, Markandeya Rishi wanted to see how Maya works. So he wanted to show it to him and also to save Satyavrat. So Matsya Avatar was a Leela arranged by the Lord in the middle of a Manvantar. It's not at the end of a Manvantar. It is not a regular dissolution. Okay? 19.
भूतग्राम स एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे अवशः पार्थ प्रभवत्या हरागमे. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated.
See, so Krishna is using the word helplessly annihilated. What does it mean? The jiva has no option but to get parked either in the body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu or Mahavishnu. So the acharyas explain that the soul's nature is to be active, and to be in an unmanifest stage is a very painful experience for the soul. And we can see how long these periods are. How long these periods are. So for that time, the soul is unmanifested in the body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu at the time when Brahma goes to sleep, or if Brahma's life ends, then these souls get parked in the body of Mahavishnu. It's very painful for the soul. And that is why Prabhupada says from time immemorial, we are in this material world for time immemorial. Because getting parked in the body of Mahavishnu is like time immemorial. It's a very, very long time compared when it calculated in terms of earthly years. Okay, so read this purport, please.
The less intelligent.
I have a question.
Hold on. Let's read the purport and then question.
The less intelligent who try to remain within this material world may be elevated due to higher planets and then again must come down to this planet Earth. During the daytime of Brahma, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets within this material world. But at coming of Brahma's night, they they are all annihilated. In the day, they receive various bodies of for material activities, and at night they no longer have bodies, but remain compact in the body of Vishnu. Then again they are manifested at the arrival of Brahma's day. Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. During the day, they become manifest, and at the night they are annihilated again. Ultimately, when Brahma's life is finished, they all are annihilated and remains unmanifested for millions and millions of years. And when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, they are captivated by a spell of material world.
See, how painful is the situation if you don't make it back, if you don't attain the goal of human form of life. This is what we will have to keep going through. How painful. Yeah, Daya, now you can ask a question.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, as here the word living entity is written. So living entity doesn't include soul.
What else is living entity?
If living entity includes soul, then in chapter 2 we read now that soul does not come into being. So like it's something making
What's
me
the
confused.
confusion? Living entity means a jiva, means soul. What's the confusion? Where is your confusion arising from?
In chapter 2 there is a verse in which there says
Yes.
soul does not come into being.
Yeah.
So here it is saying came into being.
Where does it say it came into being?
All living entity came into being in translation.
Hold on. Yeah, this means manifest. It does not mean that they were born at that time. It means becoming manifest and unmanifest. It is this is when Prabhupada is using these words. It means that when Brahma's day arrive, all the living entities become manifest, and when his night comes, they all become unmanifest. It does not mean in the same way in the second chapter. Here it is talking about manifestation, avyakt and vyakt.
Okay.
All right, Jyoti.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Here it is mentioned that during the day it manifests and during the night it unmanifests. So, like the day of Brahma is suppose 1,000 years. So, this is like for 1,000 years they manifest and 1,000 years they unmanifest. Is it like that?
If they don't make it back to the spiritual world, yes. Yeah.
So, the four. Yeah, like for the four the four yugas the four yugas, so like the four yugas, all the yugas, throughout the yugas we are unmanifested.
For you, see, the thing is, when Brahma is sleeping, all the living entities which are in the lower planets, like below Swargaloka, they're all unmanifest. It doesn't matter. But when Brahma is awake, then those souls which are meant to be in Satyuga become manifest in Satyuga, which are meant to be in Dwapar. Because according to our karma, we Kalyugyans have no karma to be manifest in Satyuga. So they wait for another Kalyuga to come to become manifest.
Okay, so in Satyuga they don't come in the form of like the lower insects like insects.
They wait.
Okay, they wait.
Okay. 20.
तस्मात्तु भावोऽन्यो अव्यक्तो अव्यक्तात् सनातनः यः स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति. Yet there is another unmanifest feature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is.
See, so he's talking about manifested and unmanifested material world, right? And now he's saying there's another unmanifest nature which is eternal. Now he's talking about his abode. That, Arjun, you don't have to worry about manifested, becoming manifested in material world or unmanifested. I have a abode which is transcendental and which is unmanifested and it is eternal. It is supreme and never annihilated. Whatever annihilation takes place in the material world, my abode is not impacted by that. It always remains it always remains eternal, and it is always blissful. So he's saying that one doesn't have to really worry about what happens in this material world if you just come to my abode. So again, Krishna is inviting us that please don't get stuck here. Come. 21.
अव्यक्तो अक्षर इति उक्तस्तं आहु परमां गतिं यं प्राप्य न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम. That which the Vedantas describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode.
So he is again describing his abode, that it is unmanifest, that one cannot see from their material eyes. My abode cannot be seen. And that's how it's unmanifest. It's infallible. That one doesn't, it's never destroyed. It's always there. It is the supreme destination. And one who attains this doesn't have to come back. It is my supreme abode. One doesn't have to come back. Okay, so then Prabhupada in his purport talks about the Chintamani Dham and how there are desire trees, there are Surabhi cows, and how the Lord is served by crores and crores of Lakshmis, and how he plays his flute and how he can perform any action from any part of his body. So Prabhupada is basically quoting from different verses from Brahma Samhita. So let's just read this pink portion first.
In the
In the
Bhagavad
Bhagavad
Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Golok Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahma Samhita.
So Prabhupada is making it clear that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does not go in much detail to talk about his abode. He only tells it's blissful. And, in 15th chapter, he'll talk about that how it's not illumined by sun or moon or electricity. So only very brief descriptions he's giving. But Brahmaji gives very, very vivid descriptions in Brahma Samhita. And then Prabhupada says Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Golok Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. So now let's see what he has to say further. 22.
पुरुषा सा परापार्था भक्त्या लभ्यस्ता अनन्या यस्यन्ता स्थानि भूतानि येना सर्वमिदं ततम्. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him.
So this is the Achinta Bheda Bhed Tattva, that he is always in his abode, in his personal form, and he is also everywhere in the form of his energies, all-pervading. And everything is situated within him. This is the Achinta Bheda Bhed, simultaneously present and not present. Right? So now let's read the purport, the highlighted portion.
Here it is here clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes the supreme abode as Anand Chinmay Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. All the variegatedness manifest there is the quality of the spiritual bliss. Nothing there is material. That variegatedness is expanded as the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead himself. For the manifestation, there is totally of the spiritual energy as explained in the chapter 7. As far as this material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in his supreme abode, he is nonetheless all-pervading by his material energy. So by his spiritual and material energies, he is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasyanta sthani means that everything is sustained within him. Within either his spiritual or material energy, the Lord is all-pervading by these two energies. To enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuntha planets is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain the supreme abode.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is making it very clear that how Krishna is pervading spiritual world by his spiritual internal potency, and how is he pervading the material world by his material energy. And without practicing devotional service, without bhakti, one cannot go to his abode, one cannot reach his abode. Okay, so then he gives different examples from different Upanishads and even from Brahma Samhita. So let's come to 23.
यत्र काले त्वनावृत्तिम् आवृत्तिं चैव योगिनः प्रयाता यान्ति तं कालं वक्ष्यामि भरतर्षभ. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world the yogi does or does not come back.
So now he's talking about that how a yogi, how a Ashtang yogi or a Jnana yogi or a Karma yogi, how when they pass and under what circumstances they leave this world determines the result that they get. So in the purport, somebody read.
The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization, such as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga, must leave the body at a suitable time and thereby be assured whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable time at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse.
So Prabhupada here is going to talk about the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga or a Bhakti Yogi. That how a Bhakti Yogi, he's practicing pure Krishna consciousness, he's an unalloyed devotee. He doesn't have to worry about when he's leaving the body, where he's leaving the body. Doesn't have to worry about it. He can leave his body anywhere, anytime, anyhow. Krishna will take him back. He will happily return to Godhead. But others who are not pure unalloyed devotees have to plan where to pass, when to pass. So now Krishna is going to talk more about it. So let's see what he says in the verse 24. Okay, let me read if nobody else is reading. Agni Jyotiraha Shukla Sanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha.
Those who know the Supreme Brahm attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north.
Yeah, so this is how a Gyan Yogi or a Ashtang Yogi. So how do they plan that when during the daytime or at the auspicious moment and during the Shukla Paksh, not at Krishna Paksh, Shukla Paksh or Uttarayan, when the sun is in the Uttarayan. So but if you're saying something, Harshika?
No.
If a yogi passes during this period, then he can actually attain success. Otherwise, he'll tell in the next shloka what will happen. So purport, please.
When fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return.
Yes,
However,
wait. So here Prabhupada is making it clear that what happens, fire has a deity, light has a deity, day has a deity, fortnight has a deity. So what happens if a person passes during this auspicious moment, the deity of fire hands him over to the deity of light, and then the deity of light hands him over to the deity of day, and then such a soul is then passed on like that till the time he reaches Brahma Jyoti. He reaches Brahman. So he ends up in Brahma Jyoti. So this is how it goes. One deity passes to another, to another, to another, to another, till the time he reaches Brahma Jyoti. And then Prabhupada says, however, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves his body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement. Yeah, we saw that Prabhupada did not leave his body in Uttarayan, because for a devotee it doesn't matter. He did not leave his body during the daytime, because for a devotee such considerations are not of any significance, but they are very significant in the life of a Gyan Yogi or a Ashtanga Yogi. Krishna Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, what about Bhishma Pitamaha? He waited for for Uttarayan. He was on the bed of arrows. You all know.
It's very interesting that every time I teach this section, every time the same question comes up. I find it very interesting. So, so actually, if you read Bhagavatam, the first canto, passing of Bhishma Pitama, it is said that he was actually waiting for Uttarayan, means he was waiting for the person who entered the womb of Uttara to save Parikshit. Uttarayan means he was actually waiting for Krishna. He wasn't waiting for the sun. He was waiting for Krishna. So Krishna came to meet him with all the devotees and highly exalted personalities, and Bhishma Pitama left his body looking at Krishna.
So this explanation is only for Vaishnavas, but the common person thinks that it is for Uttarayans as well.
So common person doesn't understand what bhakti is anyway. So, how will he understand this?
Right. Thank you.
Text 25.
धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्ण षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रम् असं ज्योतिर्योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते. Translation: The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months, when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back.
So here Prabhupada, here Krishna is saying that if the time is not auspicious, if the day is not auspicious, if the month is not auspicious, then what will happen? However staunch a person may have been in his yoga practice, if he dies during this period, when there is during smoke or night or during Krishna Paksh or during Dakshayan, then what happens? He has to come back. He reaches up to the moon planet, which is a heavenly planet. He reaches till there, and till the time he has pious credits, he enjoys there. And once his pious credits are exhausted, he comes back. And how does he come back? In which form? Who remembers?
To rain.
Yes, in the form of rain. Yeah. So just read this.
These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculations and enjoy life by drinking som rasa. They eventually return to earth.
Yes, how sad. You are used to a higher standard of living, and then you have to come back to this earth. So this is very sad. So that's why a devotee never aims to go to the heavenly planets. He doesn't want to go to the heavenly planet because it's temporary. There's a lot of opulence, lot of enjoyment, but it's temporary. Jyoti?
Hare Krishna. Why it is written as by demigod calculation?
Because 10,000 years by demigod, because by human calculations, our 6 months are there one day. So when he goes for 10,000 years, it's according to 10,000 demigod years, not 10,000 human years. Okay? And what is the disadvantage if you end up in heavenly planet? One is obviously there's a lot of opulence. You can practice Krishna consciousness. Second is that you'll get used to a higher standard of living, and then you have to come down to this earth, which is very sad. Third is what? Third is that Prabhupada said that this movement is going to flourish for next 10,000 years. After that, Kali Yuga will take over. So if you end up in heavenly planet, by the time you come back, Chaitanya era is gone. Chaitanya era is gone. What will happen? Bhakti will become very difficult. No Yamuna, no Govardhan, no probably nothing. If you think bhakti is difficult now, think about what will happen after 10,000 demigod years. Impossible. So that should act as an incentive to become more serious in our practice, to become more sincere in our practice. And Prabhupada said 75% of my disciples will end up in heavenly planets. Why? Because they are already chanting, but they are also cultivating material desires. So don't think that if you're practicing Krishna consciousness, how can we end up in heavenly planets? We can, because this is the highest piety. And if you are cultivating material desires, yes, that's where you end up. Okay? Jyoti, you wanted to say something?
I was just thinking like if they're going to like a heavenly planet and they're enjoying, like it is so much delusion, like
Yeah, it's very delusional.
when they come to Earth, they don't remember anything, right?
They don't remember anything. And what happens, I heard it, I don't really know the reference, that everybody wears a flower garland there, which is very fragrant, very beautiful. And as the time starts coming closer, as your pious credits are getting exhausted, that flower garland starts fading. And you come to know that my time is coming. I will have to go back. Imagine the amount of misery that you're waiting. Oh, it's going to run out any moment.
Is there not any way like from there they can practice Krishna?
Yes, free will is always there. But just imagine how much opulence one has on earth. Look at people who are opulent. For them, how easy it is to practice Krishna consciousness. No, it's not easy at all. It's difficult. And the opulence in the heavenly planets is so much more. It's not impossible, but very, very difficult. It's not impossible. Okay, Keshavi?
Mataji, you told that Srila Prabhupada said that 75% of my disciples would end up in heavenly planets, but heavenly planets come under material world only. So Srila Prabhupada also said that if my disciples chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles, they will go back home, back to Godhead.
Yes,
So
but if you're chanting 16 rounds and cultivating material desires, then sorry. When he talks about 16 rounds, he says attentive 16 rounds. And if you have material desires, there's no way you can chant attentive 16 rounds. He didn't say that you can chant anyhow, anyway, and you're going back. No, he said attentive 16 rounds. Okay? Yeah, Harshika?
Mataji, in the purport, text 24, it's written that for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning in this world, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious time or inauspicious time. But those females who die at the time of monthly menstruation, they are not pure according to the religious scriptures. Means the monthly periods they get, if they die at that time, will they get the award or not? Will they go back to Supreme Godhead?
Okay, so you are talking from the bodily perspective. Krishna consciousness,
yes. They are not
Krishna
pure that
consciousness
time.
is at the level of soul. It is not there is this very famous incident that 2 of his disciples, they went and told Prabhupada that Prabhupada, some of our god brothers are saying that women are less intelligent. So, and they were offended. These are Americans, they believe in equality. So they were offended. They said, Prabhupada, some of our god brothers are saying that women are less intelligent. And in the purport, in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you mentioned that women are less intelligent. So can you please explain? So Prabhupada said, you think you're a woman? So they said, they look like yes. He said, if you think you're a woman, then you are less intelligent, because you are meant to think of yourself as soul. We are this body, this women or men as an outer covering. It is not we are the soul. And at the soul level, everyone is equal. This contamination is at the level of the body. It is not at the level of soul. If the soul is pure, it doesn't matter. Like Prabhupada left in Dakshinayan. Prabhupada left at night time, 7:25 p.m. in November. It was dark. So from materialistic calculation, it's inauspicious. But for a devotee, it doesn't matter. That's why Prabhupada is making it very clear. Auspicious and inauspicious doesn't count in the life of a devotee. Okay? These are for materialistic people.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Vaibhavi?
Mataji, I have a question from the previous verse that it is written here that if somebody leaves at an auspicious moment, they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. So does this involve people who are involved in such activities? I mean, not pious activities. Suppose a gangster dies at some auspicious moment. So will he also not come back to the?
No. It is obviously based on what you do. So it is meant for the yogis, that if they accidentally or inaccidentally die, if they are a yogi, then this is the result they will get. It's not that you are a vikarmi and you'll get the same result. No, it doesn't. It doesn't work like that. Krishna's arrangement is perfect. Nobody can cheat it. There's no cheating in Krishna's arrangement. Okay, 26.
शुक्ल कृष्णे गति हुए एते जगता शाश्वते मते एकया याति अनावृत्तिम अन्यया वर्तते पुनः. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns.
So now Krishna is actually summarizing what he's been speaking about, that there are two ways, in light and in darkness. Light means during Uttarayan, during daytime. So when one passes, he does not come back, means he reaches Brahma Jyoti. But Prabhupada tells us that from Brahma Jyoti also one can fall. One can fall because in Brahma Jyoti one realizes a Sat and Chit, but does not realize Ananda. Souls, what is the soul's composition? Sat, Chit and Anand. The Sat feature is realized in Brahma Jyoti, Chit feature is realized, but Ananda feature is not realized. So soul how long can a soul remain without experiencing any bliss? So that's why Prabhupada says that even from Brahma Jyoti one falls down. But one may remain in Brahma Jyoti for a really long time before they fall down. So that is why Krishna says that he does not come back, that there is a possibility of not coming back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns. That is, from heavenly planets, one will come back. Then Prabhupada in the purport says, those who are fruitive laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they do not attain ultimate salvation, for they do not surrender to Krishna. To actually attain eternality, one has to surrender to Krishna. It is not possible without it. Okay, let's go. 27.
नैति स्थिते पार्थ जान योगी मोहयति तत् तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन. Translation. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion.
So the acharyas explain that Krishna thinks, now he's told all this to Arjun. Now Arjun might get bewildered and start thinking, what do I have to do? What should I practice? So now Krishna is making it very clear that although my devotees know about both these passes, paths, like passing in the light time and passing during the dark time. But my devotee does not get bewildered because they know that they are completely sold out to Krishna. The goal of their life is to serve Krishna, and they're always fixed in devotion. So I take care of them. So purport, read.
Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when living the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdoms safe, certain, and direct. The word Yoga Yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises Anasaktyah Vishayen Yatha Aharam Upayuna Jatah. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is here explaining what Krishna is trying to say. Krishna is trying to say that all my devotee needs to do is to be absorbed in my service. He doesn't really need to worry about all these paths because he is completely absorbed in my service. So I will take care of him. He doesn't need to worry about that, if I pass accidentally, if I do this, if I pass during the dark fortnight, what will happen? So Krishna is saying a devotee doesn't have to. This is not a consideration for devotee. So he's basically talking about how devotional service is the supremacy of devotional service over all other yoga paths. That if you are a devotee, then you don't have to worry about all this. But all other yoga paths, you have to think when to pass, you have to plan it all, right? So now 28, the last verse of this chapter.
Vedeshu yagyeshu tapahatu chaiva daneshu yat punyaphalam pradishtam atteti tat sarvamidam viditva yoge paramam sthanam upeti chadyam. Translation: a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode.
See, so such a wonderful verse that if you have taken the path of devotional service, you don't have to worry about performing sacrifices, studying Vedas, undergoing austerities, because it's understood that you will get the results of all these practices, like of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, by practicing Bhakti Yoga. So one doesn't have to strive for these different practices. So by performing devotional service, one attains all this and at the end reaches the supreme eternal abode. So Prabhupada is saying this verse is a summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. Jyoti.
Hare Krishna Mataji, that this line which is given here, like his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. So exactly, I wanted to understand. Like there are so many.
Where are you talking?
Like 27, last line.
Okay. 27.
Like
yeah,
is guaranteed by devotional service. So like in devotional service are like so many and so many types are there. Like I mean, what mood exactly and what way exactly? Because there are so many. Like what
see
mood
here
it
when Prabhupada is when Krishna is saying, he's saying to become fixed in devotion, he's actually talking about a pure devotee. He's not talking about any other devotee. A pure, unalloyed devotee who's always fixed in Krishna consciousness. He's not talking about mixed devotee He's not talking about accidental devotee. He's not talking about fringe devotee. He's talking about a devotee who is in pure Krishna consciousness. He's a pure unalloyed devotee.
So that itself comes in the devotional service, like
Yes.
that defines devotional service.
Yeah, because he's saying it very clearly. Be always fixed in devotion. A person who's not deviated ever, who's completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, for such a person. Okay. All right, so coming back to this purport. So somebody read this. Yeah, 1 second. So Prabhupada actually explains how, like when Krishna says that one gets the result of studying Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, what does it really mean? So Prabhupada explains that a brahmachari in Vedic times, for how they used to practice, they used to go to a gurukul and practice brahmacharya, and from the age of 5 till 20, and then at the age of 20, they can decide whether they want to continue in brahmacharya ashram or they want to get married. If they want to get married, then they enter the household life, and at the age of 50 they get into vanaprastha. They leave everything, go to forest, and then from vanaprastha one finally at the age of 75 accepts sannyas. So one very important thing that Prabhupada is saying here, the study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. This is a very important line, that even when we read Shastras, it is not for speculation, or it is not a mental exercise. It is supposed to transform our character. Reading Bhagavad Gita should transform our hearts and also form our character. Okay? So Prabhupada says that some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms after taking sannyas and reaching perfection. And when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahmajyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna conscious, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. One doesn't have to go on a progressive path. One can, in one stroke, take an elevator, not take steps, take an elevator back home, back to Godhead through practice of Bhakti Yoga. So please read this paragraph.
The words idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapter 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like covering of the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in Bhagavad Gita should learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter it is stated clearly that Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of the devotees, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God, and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. The one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. The highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Golok Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy.
Thank you. So I just want to see how attentively you people heard or read the portion that I've just highlighted. What does this portion tell you? Somebody? What is Nishtha?
Mataji, this particular section which you have highlighted, it talks about the sign of faith. When once you get into the devotion of, when once you get into the association of a devotee and then you try to take the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, then you tend to understand it because it is away from the point of mental speculation. And if it is away from the point of mental
That's
speculation,
fine. I'm just talking about this portion that I've highlighted. From this is till eternally happy. What is this?
then you
Jyoti.
okay, sorry. Yeah.
Jyoti.
It is like it says how a devotee progresses. Like first, when a devotee gets exposed to Bhagavad Gita, he is not
Give
able
me. Don't explain. Tell me what it is.
like first he understands Gita, then he starts in the association of devotees, stages of prema, like how it is.
Okay.
Then
stages of bhakti.
Stages of
This is the
bhakti, yeah.
stages of bhakti. First is faith, Shraddha. When one searches for a devotee, but this is sadhu sangha, and fortunately gets a devotee association when actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad Gita. This is bhajan kriya. And then by the advancement in the association of devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all misgivings about Krishna, God, and Krishna's activities. This is anartha nivritti. Then, after these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study, nishtha. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita, ruchi, and attains the state of feeling, always Krishna conscious. This is asakti. And in the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna, bhava. And this highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, prema. These are the stages of bhakti. So if we don't pay attention, we can miss what Prabhupada is trying to tell us. We can completely miss it. Right? Okay, any last minute question? We have 3 minutes before we end. Wonderful. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. So Krishna willing, we will start the 9th chapter tomorrow. Okay? Thank you very much, everyone, for being attentive. And we'll meet tomorrow. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Pranam. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna to all the
Pranam to all devotees.